The millionaire saves the black homeless woman and her son after an unthinkable abandonment. Camila's world shattered the night Daniel vanished. 1 second, her small hands gripped his jacket, tears burning her cheeks, and the next, he was gone, just like that, leaving her and little Gabriel alone in a neighborhood that smelled of old smoke and broken dreams. The streetlights flickered weakly over cracked sidewalks and empty bottles scattered like forgotten hopes. No one knew why Daniel left without a word, not even a goodbye. Camila stood there, trembling, the cold wind biting through her thin jacket as Gabriel's small fingers clutched hers, shivering too. Around them, shadows danced against graffiti-covered walls, and a distant siren wailed as if mourning their sudden fall into darkness. The neighbors murmured behind drawn curtains, a mix of pity and suspicion. "Seen that man around before? Cold as ice," whispered Mrs. Jones from her doorway. "Left that woman and child like this." Yet, beneath the fear was something raw, pure determination not to break in front of Gabriel. Days rolled into restless nights under a threadbare blanket in a cramped, leaky apartment that smelled of damp and despair. She juggled 2 part-time jobs. Never enough hours. Never enough cash. Hungry nights. Stiff mornings. Whispering, "What next?" into her worn-out pillow. Gabriel's laughter, that rare, shining sound, was her anchor. But the weight of loneliness gnawed relentlessly. Then, on a rain-soaked afternoon, when hope seemed as thin as the mist curling from the city's gutters, Camila met Vinny. He wasn't just any stranger. Something about him screamed mystery. Perfect suit, but dirt on his shoes, like he'd stepped out of one world into another. His eyes scanned the grime-streaked street with a kind of calculated calm. He saw Camila. Not just the worn coat or the tired eyes, but the fight snarling beneath her fragile smile. Without a word, he extended a hand, a gesture so sudden. "I want to help," he said, voice low and steady. People stopped, staring. Who was this man, the millionaire in a run-down street? Some whispered, "Just another rich guy playing savior." Others held their breath, shocked that someone so out of place could care. Camila felt her heart hammer so fast it drowned out the drizzle. Vinny didn't just hand her money. He offered a job, a steady place to live, a new chance. Slowly, the heavy fog of desperation thinned. Camila and Gabriel stepped into a world of soft beds and fresh food. But it wasn't just the comforts that changed. It was the connection. Late nights spent sharing stories, bursts of laughter that chased away long shadows, stolen moments where Camila's guard dropped and tears spilled freely, only to be met with gentle understanding. A spark kindled, fragile but real. Then, suddenly, Daniel came back. His voice was sharp, demanding, talking about legal rights over Gabriel. His eyes cold, unreadable. The shaky piece shattered like glass. If that wasn't enough, Laura arrived, Vinny's ex-wife. Beautiful, icy, wrapped in secrets and smirks. She wove herself into their lives like a shadow, stirring doubts in Vinny and chaos in Camila's heart. Camila felt trapped in a web of lies and power plays, but she wasn't giving up. She started digging, gathering pieces of a hidden truth about Daniel and Laura, truths dark enough to change everything about Gabriel's future. Amid the storm, Vinny surprised her with a promise to adopt Gabriel, to protect them both. But then a secret surfaced about Gabriel's real identity, one that shook Camila to her core. sending her on a desperate search for her own mother, hoping to find strength she never knew she needed. And just when she thought she could breathe, a chilling message from Daniel appeared on her phone. Words that hinted at deeper ties, darker secrets, and battles not yet fought. Camila stared at the screen. Or was everything she'd fought for about to unravel? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube has removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss out on any exclusive content coming your way. And while you're there, leave that powerful like. That helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know all the amazing people who are part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Camila stared at her phone, the words from Daniel still blurring in her vision. Her heart raced, pounding like a war drum. Could she really handle whatever storm he had in store? The promise of a stable life with Vinny felt as fragile as a soap bubble ready to pop at any moment. As it was sharp, urgent, Vinny stood at the door, his face a mix of concern and determination. Camila opened it, instinctively gripping the doorframe for support. Camila, we need to talk, he started, but his voice trailed off. Before she could ask what was wrong, the door slammed shut behind him. A chilling wind rushed in, sending shivers down her spine. What's going on? She felt the weight of his expression. Vinny took a step closer, lowering his voice, urgency lacing his words. I just got a call. It's about Gabriel. The air thickened, a lead weight settling in her chest. What about Gabriel? Daniel, he's been arrested. Her breath caught, confusion washing over her. Arrested? For what? Something big, something dangerous. They say he was involved in smuggling. The last word hit her hard, like a punch in the gut. Smuggling? The kindness drawn from Vinny's promise started to curl into a knot of anxiety. As she processed this, another knock rang out, louder this time. Camila's gut twisted. Was it Daniel? Was he coming back to stir chaos? No, she whispered, heart racing. It can't be him. Vinny moved to open the door again, but before he could reach for the handle, it swung open on its own. Standing there was a woman, tall, striking, with icy blue eyes that seemed to pierce through the misty air. It was Laura. She should have been gone, leaving only shadows behind her, but there she stood, a hurricane wrapped in elegant clothing. I believe it's time for the truth, Laura said, her voice steady, almost melodic. The room went still. What do you mean? Camila felt her legs tremble. About Gabriel, Laura replied, stepping inside, eyes darting between Camila and Vinny. You think you know his story? You have no idea. Camila's pulse quickened. Memories of late-night whispers and shared laughter flashed through her mind. Had it been all lies? What are you talking about? Vinny stepped between them, protective as a lion. Laura met his gaze, unflinching. Gabriel's father isn't who you think he is. He and we share a much darker history. He's not just involved in smuggling. He's part of something bigger, something dangerous. And now he's back. The revelation hit like a thunderclap, shaking the very foundation of everything Camila believed. "No," she gasped, stepping back instinctively. "You can't be serious." Laura leaned in, her voice dropping to a whisper. "We're talking about people who will stop at nothing to get what they want. If they find Gabriel." Camila clutched her chest, breath hitching. Everything around her felt like a dark storm swirling, and she was losing ground. Vinny's grip on her shoulder tightened. "We'll protect him, Camila, I promise." But doubt crept in, threading through her mind like poison. Just then, her phone buzzed violently on the table, jolting her back to the moment. It was a text from Daniel. "You think you can run? They'll come for you, and you won't see it coming." Shivers raced down her spine. Could she trust Vinny? And what if Laura was right? Could everything she had fought for crumble like a house of cards? The silence felt heavy, oppressive. A fragile thread held them together. But had it all been a lie? Fear surged as she looked from Vinny to Laura. The storm was just beginning, and she had no idea which way to turn. Would she find the truth before it was too late? Camila felt the world shift beneath her feet, the air charged with unspoken truths. Laura's words hung heavy in the room. Anxiety pulsed through her veins like fire, igniting her fears. The sanctity she had found with Vinny felt slippery, ready to vanish like smoke. "What do you know about Gabriel?" she demanded, voice trembling yet fierce. "I know more than you can imagine," Laura replied, her voice ice cold. "The truth is not just about Daniel. It's about Gabriel's origins. He's not just a child caught in the storm. He's a pawn in a much larger game." Camila's heart raced. "What do you mean?" Before Laura could respond, the phone in Camila's hand buzzed violently again. She glanced down, pulse racing. Another text from Daniel, but this time it was a photo. Her breath hitched in her throat, the images piercing her like shards of glass. It was Gabriel in a familiar place. His small frame stood beside a man she recognized all too well, one of the men from the shadows that had haunted her life. "I have your son, Camila," the message read. "You don't even know what he really is." Confusion twisted inside her, churning with fear. "Laura, who is that man?" A flicker of recognition passed over Laura's striking features. "He's one of them," she whispered, dread heavy in her voice. "A member of a trafficking ring! Daniel may have drawn you into their world, but Gabriel, he has connections deeper than you know." The room spun. Camila felt her feet unsteady beneath her. "What connections?" "I don't have time to explain," Laura said, urgency bleeding into her tone. "But if we don't do something quickly, Gabriel, he could be used against us." "Against us?" That word echoed in her mind like a bell tolling for doom. Vinny's eyes darted between them, concern etched deep into his brow. "What the hell is going on?" Suddenly, another loud knock shattered the tension, and Camila flinched. She opened the door with trembling hands. Instead of justice or answers, it was a group of men, rugged and intimidating, stepping inside without invitation. Sharp suits lined their frames like urban predators. "You need to come with us," one of them barked, eyes landing on her with cold calculation. "No!" Camila shouted, panic flooding her body, but she was grabbed by the arms. "Let go of me!" Vinny stepped forward, fury igniting in his gaze. "Get your hands off her!" But the men didn't flinch. The room felt constricted, walls closing in, desperation swirling. Laura stepped back, and something flickered in her eyes. Fear, recognition, maybe even regret. "Camila, listen!" She reached out, voice urgent. "They're part of it!" Maybe this is the way to find the truth. That was the moment time shifted. Without warning, Vinny lunged forward, intercepting one of the men. Chaos erupted. An electrifying shout filled the space, and a fist connected sharply with Vinny's jaw. In that brutal instant, as Vinny fell, Camila's world splintered. The chaos, the shouting, the sudden impact, it all blurred into a cacophony of fear. "No!" she screamed. Confusion slicing through her as Vinny crumpled to the floor. One moment, full of life, the next, lost within the brawl. But amidst the chaos, the man holding her seized a moment of silence, his eyes piercing into her soul. "You're more important than you think, Camila. Remember, he's not just your son. He's part of a legacy." Before she could process, the room exploded in adrenaline, and another figure emerged from the shadows. A figure she never expected. "Let her go," it boomed, voice deep and resolute. Camila's heart leaped at the sound. It was Daniel, his presence once again shrouded in darkness. He looked as if he had faced all the demons in the world. His eyes burned, but there was something else, something deeper, a power. "Daniel?" she breathed, uncertainty suffocating her hope. Before she could grasp the implications, another shocking twist unraveled. The fighting stopped, and Daniel stepped closer. "I'm here to protect you both, but you need to trust me." Would she? Could she? The ground beneath her felt more unsteady than ever. Who was he really? And how far would he go to shield them from the very chaos he had invited into their lives? As the unsettling storm surged around her, Camila realized one thing. She had never been more lost and yet more compelled to fight. The truth was spiraling beyond her reach, littered with secrets and dangers she could not yet fathom. Camila felt the ground beneath her shift, her pulse racing as Daniel stepped into the room with an intensity that pulled every eye. Fear stirred in her stomach, but she edged forward, desperate for answers. "What do you know about Gabriel? What connections?" Daniel's gaze flicked to Laura, tension crackling between them. "You've brought more trouble than you can handle," he shot at Laura, an edge sharpening his voice. "I didn't want you involved." "I didn't ask for this," Laura retorted, her icy facade slipping just a touch. "This is about him. You've endangered your son, and now you drag us into your mess." "Enough!" Vinny shouted, moving closer, fists clenched, like a guardian ready to shield Camila from a tempest. The air snapped with hostility. Suddenly, the door swung open again. More men. This time they weren't like the previous guys. They looked different, almost military, dressed like they had walked off a battlefield. They entered quietly, surveying the scene with predatory eyes. Camila felt a chill travel down her spine. One of them, taller than the rest, locking eyes with her, said, "Daniel Kane, you're under arrest." Her heart seemed to stop. "What? For what?" Camila was bewildered. "You have one chance to come quietly," the man commanded, voice like ice. "We know everything." Daniel's expression shifted, vulnerability flashing in the midst of his bravado. "You don't understand." "Shut it," the man barked. "You're a bigger player than we thought. But there's more at risk now." "What do you mean?" The urgency in Camila's tone pulled everyone's focus. "Gabriel isn't just a child. He's the key to something we've been watching for years," the man continued. his eyes narrowing ominously. And you've tied him to two sides of a war. Confusion swirled. Camila stumbled back. What war? At that moment, Vinny moved to protect her, taking a step closer. You're talking nonsense. He's just a kid. Nonsense? Ask your boyfriend, the man snapped, pointing at Daniel. He knows more than he ever let on. Her stomach twisted tight. Daniel, what are they talking about? The world narrowed to a point. In one swift motion, Daniel's facade crumbled. I should have told you sooner. Before he could finish, the energy shifted in the room. The man's men reached for something hidden. One drew a weapon, a quick flash of a gun that skimmed like a shadow in Camila's memory. No! She screamed as it felt like time stretched around them. But it wasn't aimed at her. It was aimed at Daniel. The sound cracked through the air, a gunshot ringing in her ears. A sharp gasp erupted from Laura, her expression betraying shock, pain flooding her features. Daniel! She cried, voice breaking as she lunged, but too late. Camila could hardly see through the haze of chaos, but her heart sank as Daniel staggered, the impact freezing him mid-motion before he collapsed, crumpling like a marionette with severed strings. Daniel! Camila's voice shattered against thick walls of disbelief. The room erupted in pandemonium. Vinny pushed forward, yelling to get away from them. The men moved in like wolves, tense and ready for a fight. Someone grabbed Camila, dragging her back, but she focused on Daniel, sprawled on the floor, blood pooling around him, a stark contrast to the grime beneath. He's part of it. They want him alive, the man yelled, urgency rising. Then it hit her. What do you mean alive? Her voice trembled, standing right on the edge of horror. Gabriel is the link, part of a legacy, and it's not just tied to Daniel. The man's eyes flickered, cruel satisfaction darkening his gaze. You have to choose which side you're on. The weight of those words crashed down. Reality twisted. Everything she thought shattered. Choose, she breathed, heart racing, fear clawing at her throat. And in that moment of chaos and danger, another thought tore through her mind. Gabriel, the truth, his origins, that held a darkness they'd never imagined. No! She couldn't let them take her boy. But time slipped through her fingers. The room swirled with chaos, the sirens wailing in the distance. Could she save them both? Would they drown in this maze of betrayal? As Daniel lay bleeding on the floor, and Vinny prepared to fight against impossible odds. One question remained. Who could she trust? And who was Gabriel, really? The truth slipped further away. But there was one certainty. It was only just beginning, and with it, her world was set to ignite. Camila felt the world around her reel, every breath tight with dread. Daniel's collapsed form lay in a pool of darkening reality on the floor, and panic sliced through her. No, no, her voice cracked, trembling as Vinny clenched his fists, ready to fight. The strange men were closing in, their eyes gleaming like predators. Get out of the way! One of them bellowed. Camila's heart hammered against her ribs, fear gripping her. He's hurt! We need to help him! But their attention shifted. The tall man stepped forward, cold determination etched on his face. The child doesn't matter anymore. We have our orders. Wait! Laura shouted, stepping into their path. You can't just... Before she finished, the man's hand shot out, gripping Laura's arm. You need to understand your place in this. From the corner of her eye, Camila noticed Daniel's hand twitching, fingers brushing against the ground. A flicker of hope ignited within her. Daniel, please, get up! But then something strange happened. The man released Laura and sent a sharp smile towards Daniel. All pieces are in position, aren't they, Cain? You always did know how to play the game. Daniel looked up, his face pale but determined. You think you've won? He spat, pain lacing his voice. You'll regret this. Regret? The tall man chuckled darkly. This isn't a game anymore. The truth is we know everything about Gabriel, and you're the one who led us to him. Led you? Camila felt heat rush through her veins. What are you talking about? The man stepped into the light, revealing a charm that felt eerily out of place in the chaos. A glowing pendant dangling from his neck. Gabriel is special, more than you realize. He's part of a legacy that connects us. And thanks to you, we now have the key. Suddenly, the room darkened. Shadows twisting and closing in. Camila felt her heart drop as the walls seemed to ripple. Stop! She cried, turning to Daniel. What do they mean? I didn't want this for you. His voice was weak, but a storm brewed behind his eyes. Gabriel wasn't just a child left behind. An explosion shook the building, sending glass flying. Camila ducked as chaos erupted again, the thudding of boots stomping through the doorway like an avalanche. More men dressed in black surged in, their presence electrifying the air. Take him, one of them shouted, pointing towards Gabriel, who had been watching from the corner, eyes wide with terror. No! Camila screamed, rushing toward her son. But before she could reach him, the first group moved. Blows were exchanged, and screams filled the air. Everything blurred, emotions spiraling out of control. Camila, get him out, Vinny shouted, his voice barely cutting through the commotion. Run! But she didn't want to leave. She felt rooted in place, fear pinning her down. Frantic movement whirled around her, fists flying, bodies colliding, and then she saw him. Daniel was trying to push through, fighting against the tide, lunging for her with a fierce look. Go, he rasped, desperation spilling into his voice. Before it's too late. Just as she turned, a strange glimmer caught her eye. Gabriel held out a small piece of paper, trembling in his tiny hands. Mom, look! She froze, the world fading into silence. What is it, Gabe? As she reached for it, the chaos quieted like a punch that never landed. Her breath caught as she realized what it was. A key. The same key that had nestled in her mother's old jewelry box. The one she found years ago. One that Daniel had claimed was just a family heirloom. The tall man smirked, catching her realization. Did you think he didn't know? You thought Daniel was the only one who held the truth? Gabriel is linked to ancient bloodlines. You're deeper into this than you know. Ancient bloodlines, Vinyl whispered, disbelief coating his words. What the hell are you talking about? But something unexpected clicked for Camila. The pieces suddenly fit together in a way she hadn't seen before. No way! It's not possible! You're lying! But within her, everything screamed otherwise. Choose, Camila. We're out of time, the man with the pendant said, his voice lowering as tension thickened. Stand with your son or embrace the legacy that connects you. Either way, your life will never be the same. As the fight raged all around her, a startling truth formed a cage around her heart. Could everything she believed about her life, her struggles, her love for Gabriel, be a lie? And if Gabriel was tied to something grander and even darker, was it too late to save him? She felt the weight of the world shift, a germ of truth planted amidst the chaos. Would she step into this new reality, or would she fight to reclaim the life she had fought so hard to build? Caught between the shadows closing in and the glaring truth asking her to choose. Camila realized something profound. This was just the beginning. The chaos swirled around Camila, a tempest of emotions and confusion, and then everything seemed to freeze. Gabriel's small hand clutched the key, the weight of it pulling her back into the moment. "Mom!" he called, voice trembling, eyes wide and scared. "Hold on to that!" she shouted back, desperate to keep him safe. But the noise, the shouting, and the scuffle engulfed them, and she could barely hear her own thoughts. "Daniel!" she urged, turning to him, fear pouring from her. "You need to tell me what's going on! Is Gabriel in danger?" He opened his mouth to respond, pain evident in his eyes. But then something shifted in the atmosphere, deep and unsettling. The tall man took a step closer, his gaze sharp and dangerous. "Enough games, Cain!" he barked again. "We need to end this now." And just like that, the room erupted. The sound of bodies colliding, fists flying, and angry shouts pierced the air. Echoing against the walls, Camila felt her heart race as she lost sight of everything. But then there was an unexpected sound. An unsettling crack like thunder. The unexpected happened next. Something cold and sharp shot through the chaos, embedding itself into the wall beside her, splintering the space with a sickening thud. Gasps filled the air as her mind struggled to comprehend what had just occurred. A dart? A knife? It was all chaos around her. The men froze, eyes darting like terrified animals. Then the door burst open again, but this time it was different. A figure stepped in, cloaked in shadows, exuding an air of raw power and danger that silenced the room. They moved with precision, their face obscured, yet exuding a presence that sent chills through her. "Stop right there," the figure commanded, a voice low but echoing like a familiar bell in Camila's mind. Recognition washed over her like ice water. "You!" she breathed, realization hitting hard. It was someone she thought she'd never see again. Someone she had worried was lost from her life forever. Camila. The figure stepped closer, pulling back the hood, revealing a face that twisted familiar feelings of joy and dread into a single knot in her chest. It was her mother. A woman she believed had vanished long ago, draped in shadows of her past. "Mom?" The word slipped out, shaky and unsure, her heart thumping against her ribcage. Every breath felt electric, every word heavy with years of unanswered questions. "Wine, Camila! Get Gabriel!" her mother urged, not breaking eye contact. But it wasn't just her voice. There was something in her gaze, something that spoke of untold secrets and ancient truths. "Why are you here?" Camila's thoughts spiraled. Was it a rescue? Or was this another layer of a deception that had haunted her? "Because he's not just your son," her mother murmured, shrouded in urgency. "He's a bridge to something bigger." A low murmur rippled through the men in the room, each face painted in disbelief. "You've got to be kidding," one of them sneered, incredulity flaring. "The old tales can't be true." "Shut up," the tall man barked, eyes narrowing at Camila's mother. "You shouldn't be here." "Too late," she said calmly, as if fate had already sealed their paths. "It's time for the truth." "But if he's a bridge, who is he really?" Camila asked, her pulse pounding, fear and hope mingling dangerously. The storm within her raged as she sought understanding. Her mother took a deep breath, then said, "He's part of a lineage that runs deeper than blood, a guardian of something sacred, and they'll do anything to keep him from us." "Us?" Camila echoed, confusion washing over her. The realization was suffocating. Everything she thought she understood, the struggles, the abandonment, it all wove together anew, tilting the ground beneath her. "Your choices have led you here," her mother continued urgently, stepping forward, fingers brushing against her cheek with a ghost of a smile. "But remember, child, love can be the strongest weapon, or a deadly curse." Just then, another loud crack rang out, silencing the chaos. Shock shot through Camila like ice. One of the men lifted a weapon, the air thick with anticipation. Time slowed. The truth hung heavy, twisting in the air, lines of loyalty, heritage, and love crisscrossing like a tangled web. The room felt electric with suspense. Who was her mother really? What would happen next? And could she trust her? Every breath felt like a plea as Camila prepared for the next storm to break. The truth was just beginning to unfold, but it could tear everything apart or rebuild anew. Would love be enough to hold them together? Or would it push them further into darkness? She had no idea, but she had to find out. Camila felt the weight of her mother's presence like a lifeline in a storm, but fear was still pulsing through her veins. "What do you mean he's a bridge?" she asked urgently, her eyes flicking to Gabriel, who was still clutching the key like it was a precious treasure. Daniel's face twisted in pain, both physical and emotional. "You don't understand what's at stake here, Camila. It's bigger than all of us," he gasped. The atmosphere was thick with unease, and then it happened. A loud explosion rocked the building. The lights flickered, and a plume of dust filled the air. Camila dodged debris, but in that moment of chaos, panic turned into sheer terror. Vinny grabbed her, pulling her closer. "Stay down," he yelled. The men stumbled, their focus wavering. Before anyone could react, the door burst open again. But this time, it was a stampede of armed figures flooding in, tactical gear glistening under the flickering lights. They moved with eerie precision, each one a harbinger of dread. "Secure the area," one shouted. Their voices were hard and cold, echoing off the walls. Nothing like the chaos that had filled the space just moments before. Camila's heart raced. "They found us," she screamed, but it barely registered. The new arrivals were bad news. Their black uniforms enveloped the room in a chilling atmosphere. "Daniel, who are they?" she cried, panic rising higher in her throat. But Daniel, weakened and still on the floor, seemed to be slipping away from them. "Shut them down! Get to the boy!" one of the intruders shouted, and her stomach sank. They wanted Gabriel. "No!" Camila screamed, lunging toward her son. But one of the figures grabbed her roughly by the arm, yanking her back. "Mom!" Gabriel cried, his voice breaking. The key slipped from his hands, clattering to the ground. Time slowed as her heart splintered. She felt the world pull apart. Then The unthinkable happened. Daniel, with every ounce of strength he had left, pushed himself up off the ground. "You will not take him," he roared, defiance pouring from him like fire. As he stumbled toward them, a shake in his hands held dark intent, but the tall intruder raised his weapon. No! Camila's scream ricocheted off the walls, but she was too late. A deafening shot rang out, taking her breath away. Everything seemed to stop, and there, in the middle of turmoil, bullets exchanged, voices shouting. She saw it. Daniel falling back, blood spraying against the wall, painting it crimson. "Daniel!" Camila wailed, rushing toward him. But as she moved, something even more shocking seized her. The memory of her mother's words, "He's part of a legacy," sank deep inside her heart. As Daniel hit the ground, something extraordinary happened. A blinding light erupted around him, sweeping through the chaos like a tidal wave. It enveloped them all, freezing time, sending shockwaves coursing through the room. Then, and it was almost too surreal to comprehend, Daniel began to rise again. The blood vanished, the pain flickering from his face like shadows retreating at dawn. Everyone paused. "Daniel," Camila's voice trembled, disbelief washing over her. Daniel stood tall, but he was not the man she once knew. A power emanated from him, ancient and raw. His eyes glowed a fierce blue that lit up the shadows in the room. Gasps echoed around her. Even the armed men seemed paralyzed, fear and confusion etched on their faces. "Gabriel, it's time we found out who you really are," Daniel's voice boomed, echoing with strength that sent chills down Camila's spine. "You are part of this legacy. It's why they've come." A collective wave of astonishment rippled through the crowd, and everything that Camila believed crumbled. The air was heavy with realization, thick with questions and dread. Who was Daniel really? In that moment, the pieces she had struggled to fit together snapped into place. Gabriel was not just her son, he was something more. Would they still be safe? Would Daniel's newfound power protect them or doom them all? It felt like the ground was shifting beneath her, propelling her into a reality she wasn't ready for. With everything transforming around her, Camila realized one terrifying truth. The legacy was not just a story, it was a living nightmare. And she was caught in the eye of the storm. What would it mean for them all? Her heart raced as she stood frozen between two worlds, painfully aware that everything had just changed. The light surrounding Daniel flickered, pulsing with the urgency of the moment. But it was more than just his transformation that gripped Camila. The weight of it all hung heavy, the room steeped in uncertainty. She watched him, wondering if this was truly the man she thought she knew. It felt like the ground beneath her feet were cracking, ready to swallow them all. "Gabriel, stay behind me!" she shouted, her mother's presence anchoring her, but the terror was mounting. The armed figures hesitated. The air crackled again, but this time with tension so palpable it made Camila's skin prickle. The man grinned, a cold smile that sent chills down her spine. "You think you can just walk out of here with the child?" he taunted. "Drop it!" Vinny yelled, stepping forward fiercely. "You're outnumbered!" But just as Vinny spoke, a deafening roar erupted from outside. It crashed into the scene. The force of nature disrupting everything. The sound of engines revving and tires screeching echoed ominously. Camila whipped her head toward the noise. Her heart raced. "What's happening?" she gasped. The door burst open, and a massive vehicle plowed into the room, its body glistening black like night. The floor shook. Men on the ground scrambled to regain their balance, panic flooding their faces. Camila felt an odd sense of disconnect as the world twisted, both chaos and fury converging. Then, as if orchestrated, figures in sleek black suits poured from the truck, like shadows coming alive, each one brandishing weapons, faces expressionless and cold. They moved with a practiced ease that sent shivers down her spine. Her heart hammered harder, fluttering dangerously. "Stand down! We have targets!" the leading figure shouted, voice booming over the mayhem. It was like watching a natural disaster unfold. In the chaos, a familiar face emerged among them. Laura, looking more composed than ever, striding forward with an air of authority. "What are you doing here?" Daniel's voice was incredulous, laced with pain and disbelief. "Back off, Daniel. This is bigger than you," she shot back, eyes hard and unyielding. And then, as if everything was fated to spiral further into madness, she raised her hand. "Activate the protocol." Siren-like alarms blared, shocking everyone to a standstill. The atmosphere turned electric. Camila's breath caught as the wall behind Laura flickered, revealing a concealed monitor. Images flooded the screen. Footage of Gabriel, insightful glimpses of his life. His connections layered in a deeper conspiracy. "Mom!" he shrieked, panic rising as something within him reacted. But Camila felt something else, something deeper stirring. Laura turned her gaze, not towards them, but at the monitor. "It's time for the truth," she stated bravely. Camila's heart dropped, dread creeping in, when suddenly the screen revealed not just Gabriel's life, but vivid scenes of Daniel, a past hidden even from her, a connection she hadn't expected. "Daniel," she gasped. Mana fled from her limbs. "What's going on? What are you not telling me?" Daniel's eyes were wide, a mixture of fear and rage. "I had no choice," he stammered. "It wasn't safe to tell you." But it wasn't just the revelation that shocked her. Below the layers of chaos, a hand shot out. One of the armed figures lunged forwards and grabbed Laura, dragging her back. "No!" Camila screamed, launching herself forward, but it was too late. A deafening thud echoed through the air as Laura's head snapped back violently. The room plunged into darkness as her blood splattered across the screen, the graphic horror tearing through Camila's heart like a blade. "Mom!" Gabriel cried, instinctively rushing toward the chaos, but Camila seized him, pulling him back with frantic urgency. "No!" she shouted, feeling her chest constrict, panic soaring through her mind. The balance between safety and survival teetered, and the realization hit like a tidal wave. Everything had changed, and with it, their destinies intertwined in ways they had never anticipated. The group fell silent, shock and disbelief plastering their faces. But it didn't stop. No, the truth was still unfolding. Laura's lifeless body became a catalyst for deeper horrors waiting to resurface. What just happened?" Vinny stammered. Shock echoed in their shared voices. In that breathless moment, Camila realized they were no longer just fighting for survival. They were being pulled into a web connected to every dark corner of her life. And the answers were buried deeper than they ever imagined. What had they awakened? As headlights flickered on outside, piercing through the chaos, Camila took a shaky breath, heart thumping, dread twisting inside her. She faced the horror that loomed ahead. Would they find out the truth, or would they be lost in the fray? And the most terrifying question of all, what other secrets lay buried, waiting to be unearthed? The chaos hung heavy in the air, the sound of Laura's body hitting the ground, echoing like a death knell. Camila could hardly process what had just happened. Gabriel's small hand slipped from hers, instinctively reaching out for the woman who had been pulled down by ruthless hands. The horror became all-consuming. "Get back, Gabriel!" she shouted, pushing him behind her. Her heart raced, a wild drumbeat pounding in her chest. She could feel the room closing in, walls teetering like they were inches from collapsing around them. Gabriel's breath hitched, tears streaming down his cheeks. "Mom, she's hurt." "Stay here," Camila responded, her voice sharp with desperation, but she felt the tremor in her own words. She wanted to scream, to lash out, but all of it was spiraling beyond control. "Move in," the tall man commanded, and at that moment, bullets seemed to chirp like angry birds, cutting the silence. Camila spun, terror washing over her as the soldiers advanced, guns raised, eyes icy and focused. It was like watching a horror film unfold, except it was real. But then, in a flash, Daniel surged forward, unfazed by the danger. The wound on his side stark against the pale scars of his past. "Get away from them," he yelled, his voice laced with an alien authority, one she hadn't known he possessed. The light around him flickered again, a strange, vibrant glow wrapping around him like a shield. And that's when everything shifted. "Your power doesn't scare us," the man replied with a sneer. "You're nothing but a pawn." A deafening sound disrupted their words. Something thumped outside, a heavy vibration, like thunder, rattling the walls. Camila's heart seized. What was happening? Her instincts screamed to protect Gabriel, to shield him from whatever may come next. Then, with a fierce force, the ground shook. A giant armored vehicle plowed through the entrance, spraying debris in every direction. Camila stumbled, clutching Gabriel to her chest. The chaos crescendoed, voices drowning into a cacophony of panic. From the vehicle, figures emerged, intense, focused, eyes glimmering with purpose. They moved with precision, and at their front was a woman, effortlessly commanding everyone's eyes. She stepped forward, long dark hair flowing behind her. Time halted. Camila felt her body go cold. It was her mother. "Camila, we need to talk." "Mom?" Her voice cracked, caught between disbelief and a flickering hope. Why was she here? The very person Camila believed had left forever? Could she truly be back in the flesh? Within a heartbeat, the tension shifted. Laura's lifeless body lay just beyond, and amid the chaos, Daniel's expression shifted from anger to horror. "You?" he gasped, confusion darting through his eyes. "Not now, Daniel," her mother snapped, urgency driving her words. "I'm here for my family." "Your family?" he echoed, disbelief morphing into anger. "Laura's dead because of you." But the room was a frenzy, voices spiraling into madness. "What is this?" one of the soldiers shouted, taking a step back. Confusion writ large on his face. What is this connection? And then everything crashed down like a tidal wave. Camila felt a sudden pressure against her chest, a heavy pulse that resonated through her, an energy shock that rippled through everyone in the room. "Gabriel, hold on to me!" she shouted, pulling him even closer. But in the moment of despair, as the world tilted at a precarious angle, she could barely register the shift around them. The figure in the vehicle grinned, and before she could fully absorb it, her mother raised her palm, her eyes glowing a brilliant shade of silver. "I'm not just back, Camila. I'm here to awaken what has long been buried." Then it struck. A flash of blinding light erupted from her mother's hand, illuminating everything. Voices stopped, breaths caught in throats. The next moment, Camila felt the world tear apart. "Mom, what are you doing?" She screamed, but the words were lost in the roar of energy enveloping them. And in that moment of destruction, reality warped. Shadows twisted in and out, a swirl of faces she recognized and didn't. Daniel, Vinny, Gabriel, everything crumbled together. A heart-stopping truth emerged, echoing in her mind. Her mother was not the woman she had longed for. She was a key to something far more sinister. As the light faded, so did all she believed in. Shapes resembled forms but morphed back into nothingness. Camila could only watch as shadows of betrayal and truths, too painful to comprehend, shifted before her eyes. "Mom?" she whispered, but the words fell flat. The room felt unsteady, collapsing into its own secrets, leaving her suspended in uncertainty. What had just happened? What truths had she unleashed? The question lay in the air like heavy smoke. And as the dust settled, Camila realized everything had just changed. Nothing would ever be the same again. Camila stumbled back as the blinding light faded, the room coming slowly back into view. Confusion swirled inside her, a storm of emotions crashing down as the reality of what had just happened settled in. Laura's lifeless body lay sprawled on the floor, the chaos of gunfire and desperation wrapping around them like a dark fog. Daniel stood tall, but he wasn't the same man anymore. Power radiated from him, an easiness in the glow of his being, while the armed men hesitated, their confidence clearly shaken. "Stand down!" he commanded, a voice booming with authority. His eyes glinted fiercely, blue sparks dancing beneath a veil of pain. With the tension hanging thick in the air, the soldier who had raised his weapon lowered it. Comprehension slowly dawning. The shock in their faces mirrored Camila's own feelings. "Questions, Co." One of them muttered, shifting back slightly as the other armed figures watched in disbelief. "Gabriel, come here!" Camila yelled, her heart pounding furiously as she pulled her son close. She felt the warmth of his tiny body shaking against her. His big brown eyes wide, filled with unyielding fear. "It's okay, it's okay," she breathed, even though doubts crept into the corners of her mind. As Daniel took a step forward, the room buzzed with a nervous energy. "You don't know what you've unleashed, but I will protect them," he said, his voice steady yet cracked. Outside, the sirens continued to blare, a low rumble echoing in the distance. Camila squeezed Gabriel tightly, the reality of their situation colliding with what she thought was true just moments ago. "Mom, what's happening?" Gabriel's voice was small, trembling like a fragile leaf caught in the wind. With pain slicing through her heart, Camila replied, "I don't know, sweetheart, but we'll get through this together." Vinny, for a moment seemingly dazed, pushed through, his protective instincts kicking in. "We need to move! Now!" he urged, but the atmosphere had shifted. The tall man, the leader of the soldiers, eyed Daniel with newfound determination. "You're not walking away from this." he growled, hostility refueling. Yet Daniel stood firm, more powerful than ever. "Leave them out of this," Daniel roared, and Camila caught that victorious gleam in his eyes, something she'd never seen before. What happened next felt surreal. The soldiers, faced with an undeniable force, hesitated, doubt flickering in their eyes. Just then, the room exploded with the sound of an engine roaring outside, and another huge vehicle rolled in, its headlights cutting through the dimness. "Who are they?" Vinny shouted, his fists ready. "Friends," Daniel replied, a hint of a smile breaking through. He gestured towards the new arrivals, figures in tactical gear, allies he'd called in, solidarity etched on their faces. "Let's take them!" one of the newcomers shouted, pairing perfectly with Daniel's radiant power. The balance had shifted, the tension snapped, the armed men turned, some shuffling back, their confidence evaporating like mist, words scattered like leaves. And as chaos resumed, Camila felt hope flicker within her, tiny yet stubborn. "Gabriel, stick close," she ordered, gripping her son's hand tighter. They moved together, inching towards the exit, Vinny and Daniel defending their retreat. "Go. We can't let them regroup," Daniel shouted, and Camila dared to glance back at him, the strength he displayed buoying her spirits. As they stepped outside into the cool night air, a freedom she hadn't felt in ages washed over her. They hurried towards the vehicle. Her heart raced with the urgency of survival. "We did it! We got away!" she whispered, knowing that the fight wasn't over. But the thrill of hope surged bravely within her. Their faces were still painted with shock. But the darkness was retreating. With one last look behind, Camila realized that the truth, however twisted, was shimmering ahead of them, a path into the unknown. Dark secrets lingered, but hope had taken root and they were stronger together. As they piled into the vehicle, Daniel turned to her, eyes filled with assurances. "This is just the beginning, Camila. We'll face whatever comes." With racing hearts and souls interwoven, they sped away into the night, the light of dawn just beginning to emerge on the horizon. There was still so much to uncover. Who were they now? What lay ahead? This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now. It helps feed the algorithm and keeps our community growing. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild finale. It's time to let your thoughts shine. And don't wait 1 second longer to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know how this ends. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel. Let's keep the story alive and ready for the next adventure.